Was it just an earthquake, or something far more dangerous beneath the desert? A 4.3 magnitude tremor recently struck southern Iran, in a region known for seismic activity. On the surface, the event appeared routine. Small earthquakes occur frequently along Iran's Zagros fault system, where the Arabian and Eurasian tectonic plates collide. But the timing of this particular tremor immediately caught global attention. It happened during one of the most tense geopolitical moments in the Middle East in years, with the United States and Israel conducting strikes on Iranian targets and Iran responding with military pressure across the region. In such an environment, even a small seismic event can trigger much larger questions. Within hours of the earthquake, speculation began spreading across social media and geopolitical forums. Some users suggested the tremor might not have been a natural earthquake at all, but rather the result of a covert underground nuclear test. The idea quickly gained traction because of the broader context. Iran's nuclear program has been under international scrutiny for decades, and tensions over uranium enrichment have intensified in recent years. According to international monitoring reports, Iran now possesses hundreds of kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. That level is still below weapons grade, which is typically around 90%. But it is much closer to that threshold than the levels required for civilian nuclear energy programs. This has led many analysts to discuss what is known as the nuclear breakout scenario. Breakout refers to the point at which a country could theoretically enrich its existing uranium stockpile to weapons-grade levels quickly enough to assemble nuclear weapons before outside powers could intervene. Estimates vary, but some experts believe that if Iran chose to push its enrichment further, it could theoretically produce enough weapons-grade material for several nuclear devices within a relatively short period of time. That possibility has made every development inside Iran's nuclear infrastructure a subject of intense monitoring by intelligence agencies and international watchdogs. However, an underground nuclear test would be a very different event from an ordinary earthquake, and scientists have developed sophisticated ways to distinguish between the two. Natural earthquakes occur when tectonic stress along fault lines suddenly releases energy, producing a pattern of seismic waves that spread through the Earth in several directions. Nuclear detonations, on the other hand, generate a different seismic signature. They tend to produce stronger primary waves and significantly weaker secondary waves, because the explosion originates from a sudden burst of energy rather than the movement of rock layers along a fault. Early data from international seismic monitoring networks indicates that the Iranian tremor occurred at a depth of roughly 10 kilometers below the surface. That depth aligns closely with the typical range for tectonic earthquakes in the Zagros region. Nuclear tests are usually conducted at shallower depths, depending on the design of the underground test site. In addition, scientists analyzing the wave patterns from the event have not reported characteristics that clearly distinguish it from a standard seismic occurrence. Still, the speculation itself reveals something important about the current geopolitical climate. When tensions rise between major powers, even routine natural events can quickly become part of strategic narratives and psychological warfare. In this case, the question is not only whether the earthquake was natural, but why so many observers were ready to suspect something more alarming. Understanding that reaction requires examining the broader military and political environment surrounding Iran's nuclear ambitions today. To understand why this earthquake triggered such intense speculation, it is important to examine the broader strategic environment surrounding Iran's nuclear program. For years, Iran has insisted that its nuclear activities are designed for civilian purposes, including energy production and scientific research. Tehran argues that it has the sovereign right to develop nuclear technology under international law. However, many Western governments remain skeptical, particularly because of the level of uranium enrichment Iran has achieved and the speed at which its nuclear capabilities have expanded in recent years. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the global body responsible for monitoring nuclear programs, has repeatedly reported that Iran possesses significant quantities of uranium enriched to 60%. While this level is technically below weapons grade, it is far above the enrichment required for nuclear power reactors. The closer a country moves toward weapons-grade enrichment, the shorter the technical step required to reach that threshold. This reality has fueled concerns in Washington, Tel Aviv, and several European capitals that Iran could one day decide to rapidly convert its nuclear program into a military capability. But building a nuclear weapon involves far more than enriching uranium. Even if a country possesses weapons-grade material, it must still design a functioning warhead, develop reliable detonation mechanisms, and integrate the device with a delivery system such as a missile. These technical steps require extensive testing and engineering. That is one reason why nuclear tests have historically played such an important role in the development of nuclear weapons programs. Underground detonations allow scientists to validate designs, measure explosive performance, and confirm that a weapon will function as intended. This is where the earthquake speculation becomes relevant. If Iran were secretly attempting to develop nuclear weapons, some observers argue that it might eventually need to conduct a concealed underground test. Such a test could theoretically generate seismic activity detectable by international monitoring systems. However, modern nuclear detection networks are highly sophisticated. A global system of seismic stations, radiation sensors, and satellite surveillance was established precisely to identify clandestine nuclear detonations anywhere on Earth. So far, none of these monitoring systems have reported evidence indicating that the recent tremor in southern Iran was linked to a nuclear explosion. The seismic characteristics appear consistent with natural tectonic movement, and there have been no confirmed reports of radiation anomalies in the surrounding region. For now, the available scientific data strongly suggests that the earthquake was simply another routine geological event in one of the Middle East's most seismically active zones. Yet the fact that many people immediately suspected a nuclear test illustrates the level of uncertainty currently surrounding Iran's strategic intentions. In geopolitics, perception often shapes reality as much as hard evidence. When countries operate near critical technological thresholds, every signal, whether it is a missile test, a military exercise, or even an earthquake, can become part of a much larger narrative about power, deterrence, and global security. The real question may not be whether this particular earthquake was caused by a nuclear test. Instead, the deeper question is whether Iran is moving closer to becoming a nuclear weapons state in the future. If that threshold were ever crossed, the consequences would extend far beyond Iran itself. It would reshape security calculations across the Middle East, alter alliances among global powers, and potentially trigger a new phase of nuclear competition in one of the world's most volatile regions. For now, scientists say the tremor was natural, but the geopolitical debate it ignited is likely to continue. And that is why events like this attract such intense global attention. In a region where geology, energy politics, and nuclear strategy intersect, even a small tremor can spark worldwide speculation. Seismic data, satellite imagery, and intelligence reports are now examined with extraordinary scrutiny by governments and analysts alike. Each signal, each movement, and each data point is interpreted through the lens of rising geopolitical tension, reminding us how closely the world is now watching every development emerging from Iran.
At the same time, the broader question remains unresolved. Iran's nuclear capabilities, regional influence, and strategic posture continue to shape global security debates. Intelligence agencies, defense analysts, and international institutions will keep monitoring developments closely. Because in geopolitics, uncertainty itself can become a powerful force. When nations approach critical technological thresholds, even routine events can carry outsized implications. And until greater transparency emerges, every signal, from diplomatic statements to seismic readings, will continue to be analyzed for what it might reveal about the future balance of power.